Paddy Power, sponsors of the Road to Cheltenham.
Hello everyone, welcome to Road to Cheltenham. We are back in the studio with our dodgy podiums. It's nice. Yours has more wobble, I think.
Obviously heavier, I've been leaning on it too much.
Loads and loads to talk about this week, lots to look ahead to, lots to look back on as well.
Yeah, definitely. A great weekend on both sides of the Irish Sea. Probably a weekend more about the future from the past.
Yeah, it will be. There'll be plenty for us to unpick this time next week, but we have got Cheltenham and Navan and Exeter and much more to be able to reflect on also. And of course, we are going to be joined later on in the show by our social secretary, Josh Stacey, and he's got a question for you.
The social section on Road to Cheltenham is back tonight, and we want to hear from you roadies watching at home. Which of those amazing chasing debuts impressed you the most? Was it Final Demand? Was it Kopek Des Bordes? And was it Lulamba? Let us know why as well. That's the important thing. Hashtag Road to Cheltenham on Instagram or X. And then if you've got any other questions for Ruby and Lydia, I'm going to put them towards them at the end of this programme. See you soon.
Oh, that's an eager lean, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was a really eager lean, not surprisingly. So make sure you get involved, make sure that you...
someone enthusiastic.
We're making up for you. Make sure you get involved, make sure you give us your views about novice chasers and anything else that tickles your fancy. And when Josh rejoins us later on in the show, we'll be answering your questions. We're going to start now with looking at the chasers, which we'll do when you rejoin us shortly. Right, let's start with that Shloer Chase, shall we? Jonbon was looking to win it for a third time. He didn't. He ran the worst I think I've ever seen him run. Well, it was in attritional conditions and L'Eau du Sud won it.
Yeah, we did have someone moaning about having to watch Jonbon and L'Eau du Sud again on a tweet last week. They didn't even get to see that because that never materialised, so it didn't. But I agree with you. It was a race that was over so early. Jonbon pinged the first. Nico took him back then because he was enthusiastic going to the second fence, catches the hold to him, he gets in deep. And it was like he switched him off. Went to the third fence and he reaches for it. And Harry Skelton was all over this. He thought there about taking on Jonbon. He didn't. He went back off him. He waited till he got to the water. Jonbon jams on. And as soon as he does, Harry Skelton just gets on top of him, gets a half a length up, puts the pressure on Nico to have to squeeze Jonbon to the ditch. Harry committed L'Eau du Sud to the ditch. L'Eau du Sud absolutely pings it. And the race was over.
It was?
I couldn't believe Jonbon was beaten so early. Harry was taken back off Matata down the hill. Jonbon never got going. I'd say Harry Skelton can't believe it here. He has a look behind wondering, like, where are they? And they're flat out. So he saunters down the straight. JJ Slevender's brilliant to stay on Matata at the last. But Matata was going to beat Jonbon.
Yes. And
that probably proves the level Jonbon ran to. He's trotting up the straight here. L'Eau du Sud bolts in. Good performance from him. But the race was a mile.
Yeah, I mean, clearly Jonbon would have lost his record of never finishing outside the first or second bar for those acrobatic, what happened with Matata and JJ Slevender's acrobatics.
Didn't fall, he'd have lost it in last year's champion chase too.
Yeah.
So you can get lucky for that kind of a...
True. But I found it really hard to get a handle on what L'Eau du Sud had actually achieved there. I mean, he looked like a more complete chaser. I mean, he's always had an asset of jumping. That's always been a good thing. And that, I presume, would be a key thing to graduate from the novice ranks to the open ranks.
Well, it is a step. You can be the best novice, but being the best open horse is a different thing. Now, obviously, L'Eau du Sud wasn't even the best novice, but he can step forward. He has the scope to be a definite player in the Tingle Creek. But as you say, put a handle on that, I can't.
No, I can't. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because sometimes the best novice doesn't turn out to be the best open chase. I mean, if you think about Jonbon himself and El Fabiolo and what's happened to the two of them once they moved into open company.
Yeah, look, it is. It just shows you how hard it is. I mean, novice chase and novice hurdling are the easiest years of any horse's life.
So we know that L'Eau du Sud was fit. We know that he jumps well. We know that he handles deep ground. We have the question marks about Jonbon on deep ground. So it's just... I just don't know. And I'm a fan of Jonbon's, but I was never more unimpressed with him than I was last weekend. It was just so over so early. I couldn't believe what I was watching. Let's hear what the chief protagonists, the trainers, each thought.
I shan't be telling you he's going to improve because he isn't. But if I can get him in there in that same condition, he's still going to put up a mighty performance. Jonbon is obviously going to improve for the run, so I still think we have to go and make sure we weren't one swallow in a summer.
I think if you go back to his last 2 performances in the Shloer, it's never been his most impressive day out. But we're conscious it's 3 weeks before the Tingle Creek, which it obviously still is. And I think in that ground and a much more competitive field than he's met the last 2 years, and in that ground which isn't his, he doesn't jump so well out of it. I'd take it the normal improvement that he does find from the Shloer to the Tingle Creek, but we wouldn't be far away from where we've been the last 2 years.
I found that very, very interesting. Neither party are prepared to say, OK, that's Jonbon done, as many people were as a result of the Shloer. I think that both Dan is taking the horse very seriously as a contender in the Tingle Creek again, and Nicky Henderson, I was surprised by quite how sanguine he was.
Yeah, that said, I mean, look, Nicky knows the horse better than anybody.
Exactly.
And I wouldn't write any horse off in one performance, but I guarantee I won't back him in the Tingle Creek.
Just because you thought that was so bad?
Yeah, how do you trust that?
Okay.
I don't. To me, it was so lacklustre.
Let's have a look to see how Timeform rank these 2-mile chasers at the moment. And L'Eau du Sud, who both horses will oppose in the Tingle Creek, hopefully, is top of the tree for Timeform as well. We could have had Banbridge in here, who has won a Grade 1 over 2 miles, but he got his best rating 165 for the King George. And El Fabiolo's Arkle was 173 plus, but he's now 163 cross, meaning he can't jump for Toffee. It's interesting to see the dates and how long those best performances are being held on to. Jonbon's is, relatively speaking, that 170 in the Clarence House, a little bit longer in the tooth than some of the others?
Yeah, their opinion. It's a wide open division, and it's wide open for 162p to come and take charge of it, isn't it, Magsborough? Or maybe that'll be L'Eau du Sud. L'Eau du Sud was good at Clonmel last week, and he was very good at the back end in the Celebration Chase, but I don't know, I think the Celebration Chase at times horses can post huge figures, maybe run against tired opposition. Which
Jonbon certainly would have been. Let's have a look at the betting for the Tingle Creek. Jonbon, of course, was having a 6th start in the Celebration Chase. He'd been to Cheltenham, Aintree and Sandown when L'Eau du Sud beat him. L'Eau du Sud, as we've already seen already last week, has come out and won in the Clonmel Oil Chase. 4-7 he is for the Tingle Creek, which is at Sandown Park, the first weekend of December. L'Eau du Sud is second favourite at 11-4. Jonbon 7-2, 10-1 bar.
Yeah, again, I don't have a massively strong opinion on it. I know I just won't be siding with Jonbon.
Right, I was increasingly coming round to siding with Jonbon at those prices.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was, on the basis that it's an overreaction to one run.
Could be.
Okay. It's not a strong view, but having been of your view immediately on the day, I've kind of come around to it. And maybe the gut reaction is the right one.
I've watched the replay so many times. I'm more disappointed every time I watch it.
Right, let's have a look at the Fortria. And Dino Blue had a little issue with some fences.
She did, which is unlike her because jumping is usually her forte. Jumped well then over the first. Captain Guinness found a 50. A Hercule in the side, the ones at the backdrop. Then even at the second fence when she got in close, she was quicker than Captain Guinness and found a 50. But second fence down the back, she gets it all wrong. Lands in the middle of it, and Mark Walsh does well to keep the partnership intact. But that definitely rattled her. She was quite slow at the next fence. Mark gave her loads of time to recover. Captain Guinness and Touch Me Not jumped on at the 4th last, but Captain Guinness cut out like a light. Not the first time we saw him do that. Touch Me Not landed beside found a 50 at the 3rd last, but second last Dino Blue got it wrong again. Stood too far back and landed on the top of the fence, and that handed the initiative to the race fit found a 50 who looked like he hadn't stayed 3 miles at Down Royal behind Envoy Allen, and he pulls away and wins. But I would be of the opinion, had she jumped, she probably would have beat him.
Definitely, and that pulls the form massively down as well, isn't it?
It does, but Hercule in the Soy is 3rd, found a 50, beating him. That distance is probably just about right. So she was the disappointing one, really, and a couple of mistakes, which is unlike her, but she showed her well-being, and, you know, she's a very good mare, isn't she? She
is a very good mare. Found a 50, obviously using fitness on his side to win the race for successive years. Jack Kennedy afterwards saying that's essentially his level. Grade 2 is his level.
Kind of looks it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But there was some promise and some question marks about Dino Blue. I mean, she has on occasion got offences wrong, hasn't she?
On occasions, it's been her ace card as well. There's times she's jumped incredibly well, but look, I wouldn't be too put off by her. I mean, her main target would be the Mare's Chase. Obviously, we saw Spindlebury last week in Clonmel. She might prove a credible danger for Panic Attack even from last weekend. There could be numerous different horses, but I'd still say she sets a standard that Spindlebury has to get up to.
Let's have a look at the Mrs. Paddy Power Chase betting at the Cheltenham Festival. Again, I'm using this as a sort of way in which to look at the way people are ranking the mares. To me, now, Dino Blue ended up dominating this sphere with her last 3 very consistent performances. That's a lot deeper, isn't it?
It is, but you're 4-1 about a mare we've never seen jump a fence. You're 5-1 about a mare we've never seen jump a fence. We've 6-1 about a mare that may or may not stay. 8-1 about a novice that's very, very brave. The next big Westerner hasn't jumped the fence either. There's loads of horses in there.
And there's a retired horse down the bottom as well in
Allegory Devassi. I'm fairly sure she's in a broodmare sale. But yeah, that market is open. And to me, like, I don't know, whose prices are they? Paddy Power's? Jesus. Hello, like.
The likelihood of all of those very good mares not being able to translate their form to some kind of way, I think it suggests that the division is getting deeper and deeper every season. I think we say it every season, but I think it's right.
It is, and look, on a serious note, that's probably the merit. And I know a lot of people give out about the Mare's Chase, but that is the merit of having the programme. And hopefully the merit is when all of those mares go to stud, and in 7-8 years' time, which is a very long time for most people in racing, people have no patience, you get to see the prodigy. And that's what makes the horses we get to watch better. When you have breed from good stock, you tend to get good stock.
No, and also you're actually getting the mares to be racing, whereas rather than not racing, which we kind of need with a falling foal crop.
You look at all of those mares, they're all sound too. So
yes,
theoretically they should breed sound stock, not horses that never ran. And you're wondering, why did it not run? And am I buying a sound one?
Talking of non-runners, Marine Nationale dodged the rescheduled for Tria. Navan was abandoned on Saturday. That Saturday's card was rescheduled and run on Monday after a day's racing on Sunday. Barry Connell had said he was prepared to give it a go right at that deep ground, right at the start of a season, you know, for the course, I mean. But after it's been chewed up by a whole day's racing, he was less keen.
Yeah. Possibly, look, Barry had his own reasons not to run Marine Nationale. He's going to go to Christmas. He's probably not as good a horse on real testing ground anyway. And he's the defending champion. And yeah, Leopardstown suits him.
And he doesn't need the experience this year as he did last year.
No, exactly.
Right, let's look ahead while we're talking about the open chasing division to some key races this weekend, starting with the Betfair Chase. And here is the 5-strong field. Last year's second Grey Dawning is even my favourite. Haiti Couleur is 3-1. I can see that Rebecca Curtis was listening carefully. Both you and I thought the Coral Gold Cup, didn't we? And so she's, you know, rightly decided that we're talking complete rubbish and gone to the Betfair Chase instead.
Yeah, I can probably see why she has. I mean,
go on, walk me through it.
You look at last year's race. It's probably the way to walk you through it. But the only difference is going to be the ground. Doesn't look like it's going to be anywhere near as soft in Haydock this year as it was last year. So last year, Royal Pagaille set out his stall with Brave Man's Game. Grey Dawning was always thereabouts. Brilliant jumping. He'd been a good attacking novice as a jumper, and he jumped really well in the Betfair Chase until he got to the 4th last. Now they both missed the 4th last. Harry Skelton took back off Charlie Deutsch. Eventually at the 2nd last he lands beside him and the race looks over, commits him to the last. He makes a mistake and they finish at 2 miles an hour. And this looked like a real stamina-laden race. And when you look at Haute Couleur, all you think is stamina. So I think Rebecca is banking on that it'll turn into a slog, it'll get down to stamina, and she has a really strong stare. I think the problem for her could be that the ground isn't going to be anywhere near as soft.
Yeah, it's heavy here and it's around about the good soft.
Good to soft at the moment. I think that changes the race completely. But if it got into a real battle and stamina, Haute Couleur is the strongest there.
Yeah, but Royal Pagaille is a very strong player. He'd be looking to win the race for the 3rd
12,
time.
is he?
Yeah, he is rising 12. Yeah, absolutely, he is. It's a bit with Haute Couleur. You find out whether you've got a Gold Cup candidate, but if you haven't, have you left the Grand National behind?
Depends on how close you get. I mean, Grey Dawning is a 165 or 6, I think he is. Haute Couleur is just under 160. Depends on what penalty he gives him. But no, he'll run on a hurdle race, second run the Betfair Chase, or run somewhere after Christmas. 3 runs, leave him spot on for the Grand National, depending on the penalty. That's the only problem.
Okay, well, I hope that he turns out to be of Gold Cup standard. We should talk about handstands as well, because he runs in the Betfair Chase, and we've already seen him this season. He looked rusty to me at Carlisle.
He looked leery.
Larry.
Watch him at the tape here, look. Obviously the tape falls on the ground. He nearly jams on at the tape, let alone the jumps. Down to, I think he was okay at the first. Second fence, then he completely jams on and Shaw jumps it. And Jonbon behind him cops this straight away because he doesn't go anywhere near him and leaves him jam on for a whole circle around Carlisle. And it's like driving a car. How inefficient is it to keep slowing down and speeding up and slowing down and speeding up? And that's what handstands did here at Carlisle. He never really went in front. The lads behind left him at it, and they had one rattle at him late, and they chinned him. So a more competitive race, you'd imagine To Cheltenham and Royal Pagaille will both book out to go. That will definitely suit handstands. But on everything handstands that we have seen thus far, he needs to find a good bit to get involved.
Ben Pauling would make the case that his first run of last season wasn't that great either. It was in the Rising Stars Novices Chase. He was beaten, well beaten before falling, but he went on to win 2 Grade 2s and a Grade 1, the Scilly Isles, and that he thinks that now reflecting on this horse, that maybe he does just one of those that's stuffy that just needs the run.
Yeah, and I'd say headgear won't do him any harm in time too.
And how good do you think he is essentially?
I don't know.
Jumping was an asset for him last season.
It was. But he's in with the big boys now, and he'll have to be a better horse than he was last year.
And do you agree with the betting, Grade Dawning the favourite for you?
On the ground, I would, yeah.
I agree. There are other key races this weekend. On the same card, there is a graduation chase at Haydock, and that features the Jukebox Man. And Ben Pauling has cropped some criticism for running the Quarter Star Grade 1 winner in a graduation chase. What's your view? I've got one.
Why?
Copping some flack?
Yeah. I don't understand.
Because ducking a more substantial race.
He's had 2 runs over fences. So you say a more substantial race. I think that's what graduation chases are for, personally.
It's what they should be for.
Yeah, exactly. So I think if you can put the Jukebox Man in there and he has a good thorough run and it lines him up for a tilt at the King George, then he got unlucky, he got injured. But no, I wouldn't agree with the criticism he's getting at all. I think Ben Pauling is doing the right thing by his horse. I'd fully agree with him. Yeah,
I do too. And he is going to the King George. I mean, he is going to get mixed with the big guys. And while we're talking about graduation chase, Iroko, who finished second in the race last year, has finished 4th in a Grand National. This will be his 9th chase start. He's in a graduation chase.
Well, it's the same as Mr. Coffey. You can still run in a novice chase. What's a novice? What is really a graduation chase for? I think that's a debate, Lydia, we could have all night. Not to me, novice is inexperienced. Graduation chases are for likes of Marine National last year, a Jukebox Man now, a Nappers Hill even, who's got injured and only has very little experience. I can understand, for the benefit of the progression of the horse, having graduation chases for those horses. But likewise, what's a novice? Can you really... To me, when you're running a grade, a 100,000 man handicap chase, to me, if you are going to do that as a trainer, you should forfeit your novice status. Because to me, you're no longer a novice. You deem your horse capable of running in the top end handicap. You don't think he's a novice. One day we should radically review the programme book on this sort of idea, the kernel of an idea, I reckon. Oh, can I borrow your bulletproof vest? Some we do. Yeah. Anytime. Ascot's got a key race as well this weekend, the 1965 chase. It sees Il Est Français running there, now with Tom George, of course, up against Django By, the Arkle winner, who's had a wind operation, and also Pic D'Orhy at his manor. Yeah, Pic D'Orhy at his manor is right. Probably had a hard enough race maybe in the Charlie Hall. Pic D'Orhy, Il Est Français, I don't know, only my opinion. I think with a bleeder first time out, it's probably the best time to get them. Might be his day in the sun. But that's only my opinion. There is no facts to back that up. We've got the John Durkin as well on Sunday at Punchestown. Here is the entries as things stand. Decks tomorrow. Fact to File, last year's winner, is 4-5. Gaelic Warrior, 11-4. Fast or Slow, having his first run since running in this race last year, is there. And the Gold Cup winner, I Know the Way You're Thinking. Let's refresh our memory of what happened in this race last year. Yeah, and it was a belting race last year, a race obviously that was moved from December to November for the first time last year, and you got a star-studded lineup, which you're going to get again this year. I know the way you're thinking, jump back into the back of Journey With Me, defence past the stands, the Gold Cup and Aintree Stayers Hurdle winner in down the road here. I am Maximus Whitecap down the inside, made a slight mistake and faster or slow with Eric O'Connor, robbed his position at that point. But the distance of the race, fourth last fence, everything still has some sort of a chance compared to the fourth last. And we saw the Betfair Chase turn into a sprint. 4 came away down over the second last. Galloping the Champ, Factifile, faster, slow, Spallan's Tower. You'll even look at the horses in the background. It was a cracking contest. It'll be a cracking contest again this year. I'd love to know who's going to get in the box seat. That's the one I'd want to be on.
Conditions surely suit Factifile best.
They do. Trip is ideal for him. Having said that, you'd imagine at 2.5 miles as a novice, he put Gaelic Warrior up on his back, didn't he? In Leopardstown Monday.
Gaelic Warrior, of course, this is so much a stepping stone for many of those races. Gaelic Warrior heading towards the King George.
He's going to go to the King George. I honestly don't know where Factifile will go.
King George is, Fast or Slow, that was the
King George.
Yeah, sorry, you were going to say Factifile.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the plan is for him after Sunday.
Would you go to the King George with him?
Would I go to the King George with him? Would depend what's going to Leopardstown.
I know the way you're thinking, and
they have to get there.
Galloping to Champ, he might not be ready.
He should be ready. He should be ready, but you'll be taking him on first time rather than with a run under.
That's kind of what I meant.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting.
It will be, and it's good to see the Fast or Slow back after getting heat at the top of his leg after running fourth in that race last year. It's good that Martin Brassel has him back on track. What should we expect from I Know the Way You're Thinking, who began his season here last year. It ended by winning the Gold Cup. He was a bit sticky in his jumping still at this stage in his career this time last year, and now he's got a lot better. What should we expect from him?
I think if he runs a bit closer than he ran last year, sort of 4th or 5th staying on, would be a good run from him even. I do think he's a really strong stayer. I don't think he'd be competitive at 2.5, but I think it's a great place to start him, and I think he'd be a better horse for the run come Christmas.
Okay. Some people will be worried about the form of Gavin Cromwell, so we had a look into this, and this is time forms running to form percentages, and it's more nuanced than merely a strike rate or place percentages, win and place percentages. Time form take into account pre-race ratings, subsequent performance ratings, and also they have input from their analysts, so things like fitness and what actually happened to individuals in the race. As you can see, there have been better Novembers and Octobers and Septembers for Gavin Cromwell, particularly the previous 2 seasons, but he's operating at a 50% strike rate in November at the moment, and just a little bit higher than that in September and October, but it has been worse in the past too, back in 2021.
It looks it. It does. Yeah, man ran a cracker in last weekend's Tri-Town even. Horses. Yeah, I'm sure Gavin would like to see them running a bit better, but he's listening to him in the press and he seems happy with it. I know the way you're thinking.
He did, yeah, very much so. So that should be a fascinating John Dirk, and we should learn plenty about what those horses have got for this coming season and where they're going to go next. Right, when you rejoin us, we're going to talk about the novices. Some really good performances from the novice chasers. This division has already come alive, and we start with the supreme winner, making his debut over fences at Navan, Kopek Des Bordes.
Yeah, obviously on Monday, it was supposed to be Saturday, popped out upsides another way in front, attacked the first with Paul Townend, but Paul had to work quite hard on him. Now, he did surprise me. I wasn't so sure watching him over hurdles. Second fence, you can see how hard Paul is taking him back to get him to shorten up going to the second fence. He pulled his way to the front at the ditch past the stands. Didn't take as much organising at the second down the back. He was on a good stride and he pinged it. But at the third one, again, you can see Paul's hands. He really has to slow him down to get him to look at where he's going. Now, he got better through the contest. Last ditch, he was better at it. He shortened himself up a little bit. But the second last, I'm not sure what he does on landing, but watch the height he's off. His near fore comes off the ground. He landed, I don't know what the right way of putting it is, almost static, not galloping. He bounced on the ground rather than landed galloping. But he definitely jumped a lot better than I thought he would, having watched him as a hurdler. He had schooled well. It was a really good performance. And I have no doubt he will improve. I mean, his first run over hurdles was pretty scary to watch. I'd say his first run over fences was a hell of a lot better than that.
Yes, I like that. He wasn't scared of the fences, was he? No. He wanted to attack them. That was a good thing about it. But he did need interventions, as you point out.
help.
He did. So we know where, I mean, he's already been installed as favourite for the Arkle. Final Demand, who we'll get to later on in this section, has been installed as favourite for the Brown Advisory. So the two Willie Mullins linchpins are in place. And we also know where they're going next, don't we, with the reshaping of the Christmas programme in Ireland?
It would look obvious that Kopek will go to Leopardstown for the 2-1 on, I'm assuming it's St Stephen's Day or Boxing Day, and Final Demand will go to Limerick. I would assume that looks the obvious place for them both to go.
So a couple of things there. That potentially, if everything goes smoothly, puts up a choice for Paul Townend, Gaelic Warrior at the King George, or a novice who's learning who needs interventions in the Racing Post 2-mile novice chase on the same day.
That'll depend on what happens Sunday. How Gaelic Warrior gets on in the John Durkin and whether you think he can win the King George. But I'm fairly sure I went and left for a tour in Leopardstown as a novice chaser to ride something. Might have been Annie Power, the Christmas Hurdle, or Faheen. Could have been Faheen, maybe.
Which horse needs it most, though? I mean, but neither are straightforward. Obviously, Patrick McMullins was on board for his most famous success over Fences at Aintree. Yeah,
he was. Look, it'll depend. A lot will depend on what happens on Sunday with Gaelic Warrior. Paul will have to then worry about that decision.
Of course, on the show, in the previous series, you were criticising the decision of Horse Racing Ireland to scrap the 2-mile novice chase at Leopardstown Christmas Festival and keep the 3-miler. 12 months late, they've bowed to your opinion. There is now no 3-mile.
I doubt it was very little to do with me, but go on.
There is no 3-mile novice chase in Ireland over Christmas. There's only the Quarter Star in Britain. The Faheen at Limerick has been lengthened by a furlong and a half to 2-mile 5, but there's no more fences being jumped.
No, you move it from 2-3, you would have to actually make it 2-7 in Limerick to actually put in another fence. You'd have to go that far. But I would have brought it to Leopardstown anyway. It's the best track.
The Faheen race? Yeah.
If I had my way, Lydia.
Well, judging by form.
No, that's not going to happen, but that's where I would have put it. That's only my opinion.
OK. Let's stick with the 2-milers for now and look at a very taking debut from Lulamba, who was a bit frisky beforehand at Exeter.
He was fresh in the paddock, wasn't he? Then again, he is only a 4-year-old, but he was very on his toes when Nico got on him in the paddock, and he took a bit of riding to get him out on the track. Again, the sun was layering, which you can see as they head to the first fence, which he jumped fine round the corner. Tripoli Flyer, Salver, fine at the water jump. Jumped into the back of Salver, I think, at the next fence, or Salver jumped out in front of him. I'm not quite sure. It's hard to tell on that angle. Had a look at the ditch, and then when they faced into the back straight, you can really see why these fences were omitted. Look at the horses' shadows. They're directly behind the horses as they gallop past the fences. It was straight into their face in Exeter, so that's as good a reason as any to take them out. Big and high at the 4th last. Now, he did take a bit of squeezing down the straight, backed off the 3rd last, was better at the 2nd last, and I think his best jump was actually the last. I think he'd be better with in a more competitive race. More jumps will suit him. But I know he didn't win a Triumph, but he got involved in a Triumph a long way out, and it's hard to say he didn't stay. Does he look like a real 2-miler, or could he be a horse that wants further? He might well win a trip. I mean, he's only a 4-year-old and he's getting 2 miles so well. As he gets older, he probably is going to win a trip.
I felt intrinsically he was the best juvenile last season. I think he seemed to softened each other up a bit.
They did, and Poneros came and mugged the two of them. But I do think, I don't know, maybe you get too set in the way you think, but I generally do think Triumph winners don't get faster.
Yeah. Nick Henderson said the horse is quite clever. He thinks he's very nimble with his feet. Did you see enough of that?
I did, yeah. Yeah, he was definitely setting himself up.
OK. You mentioned this next one being very brave. This is July Flower winning the Arkle trial at Cheltenham.
Yeah, and she was, and you watched them to the first fence even, Sam and Harry on the inside compared to Dara O'Keefe. They let their horses run at them, whereas Dara had organised the mare to the first. She was brave at the second. I was impressed with Burdett Road. A mistake of the water was only his only error. Other than that, he was pretty good, so he was. The horse at the back as well, Stencil, he was very free early, and a couple of good jumps in the back straight got him into the contest. That was Burdett Road's only mistake. And Stencil took a long time to spit it out, pings this ditch, nearly lands up in second place. But Dara O'Keefe and Harry Skelton went at it to the ditch. Both horses were really good. They rolled off the hill to the 3rd last. July Flower pinged it. Be Aware was going with her. And I don't know, was it determination or which one stayed better? But it's interesting to watch. be aware and stencil as they land at the last fence. They landed pretty much the same part on the inside of the track, and both of them nod. It was getting cut up down the inside, and you can see how both of them stumbled. She landed running on this side of the track, and there's actually something Nick Skelton pointed out to Harry after, because he kept wider in the next couple of chases. But she was good. She was much more controlled at Cheltenham than she was in Limerick. To my eye, she was wild in Limerick.
Me too. I was worried. You know, when you say sometimes that horses are actually scared because they give the fence air, I was wondering whether it was that, but it's not, is it?
No, it's not. It's just brave and power, and she's very, very good. Give her her due.
Henry de Bromhead, her trainer, said, well, they came to the Arkle trial to see if she should run in the Arkle, and they got their answer. The last mare to do that double was, of course, Put the Kettle On.
I thought it absolutely no chance, so I'm making no comment on July Flower.
So that is the way things stand in the 2 milers. That kind of gives you an insight of where people feel they're currently standing. Romeo Coolio pretty high up there in the rankings. He was 3rd in the Supreme behind Kopek Des Bordes at Cheltenham last season. He was 2nd to Salvatore Mundi at Aintree, and we've seen him make his chase debut already at Down Royal. Yeah,
Lulamba only got to jump 8. This fellow only got to jump 7 on Down Royal. Look at the shadows here. As they pass the first fence, they're off out to the left-hand side. As they pass the second fence, the shadows are sort of coming to behind them. And then when they pass the next fence, the shadows are on the left. So you've sun shining in 3 different directions, yet you couldn't see any of the fences. I'd love someone to explain that one to me. They jump the next fence. Romeo Coolio pops up in front there. He was good. Where's my Jets on his inside? I think he warmed up to it, Romeo Coolio. But it is hard to judge them with only 7 fences in a chase. Cocktail Brew on his outside runs next week. He jumped well. And I do think the next, which was the last ditch, I think Romeo Coolio's best jump was the last fence. He flew this ditch under Jack Kennedy, and he was good down the home straight. He bolted in, but effectively, again, you want to see him the next day. Yeah, I'm assuming he'll go to the Drin more. He was a really good novice hurdler, and I think he probably will find it easier over fences.
I'd mark him up a little bit for the Supreme as well, because I think he sat closer to that pace being forced by work ahead.
I'd agree with you, and there probably wasn't enough jumps in a hurdle race for him. He's the sort of horse that will benefit from more jumps.
So you're saying some of those fences should not have been omitted?
It's easy to say it when you're standing in the stand, but the sun can't be shining all of them in the same direction.
It's quite a vexed question at the moment for lots of people, that particular question. So it's worth examining, I think. Jumping across the Irish Sea to the British. Let's talk about some of our exciting novices. Lump Sum would be one. We aren't able to show you his win at Uttoxeter, but this was a really decent hurdler. What did you make of his chase debut success?
He was good, and I think the yard of a couple. I thought the horse at Carlisle was really good too. Lump Sum was very good. Interested to see which one they pitch into the Henry VIII. Hard to see them running the 2 of them, but Steel Ally was really good at Carlisle. And I loved the way he went about it. He wasn't even in a novice chase. This was a graduation chase, unexpected party, and Pat Daru needed the experience that they ran in the graduation. But Steel Ally, absolutely, really brave early. Even there with Dylan Johnson, he was expecting him to go in. He attacked that one, and he was getting very brave. And you're thinking to yourself, wouldn't mind seeing this fella popping one. And I'd say Dylan was thinking the same, but he was going forward, so he kept going with him. And eventually down the back, one of these fences, Dylan gives him a squeeze, this one, and he shortens himself. You're thinking, you bunny. I'd be giving him a pat in the neck. Got in real deep to the 4th last. I know he was getting 7 pounds from the 2 horses behind him, but I think for a horse having his first run against 2 with so much experience, it was a really good performance. Lost his whip at the back of the last. He didn't need it. He'd be a cracking riding the Henry VIII.
I really like this horse. I thought it was a great start, and I knew you'd like that fence.
Yeah, it's standing out and long. That's natural for a horse. They're in their stride. It's when they have to get in, move their feet, and get themselves off the ground. I think that's when you test them. Graduation chase. Unexpected Party was having his 21st chase start and graduating. But he qualifies.
Path through his 17th chase start. Yeah, I'm not criticising connections. I'm talking about the race conditions. Right, let's hop back over to Ireland and talk about Final Demand, shall we? We've mentioned him already. He made his chase debut at Navan on Sunday. I like this too. Oh, I loved it too, and it was how little Paul Townend has to do on him. Watch him at the first. He gets in close. His hands were so less active on Final Demand than they were on Kopek Des Bordes. Wingman went with him. Now this fence, you're thinking he's a bit long, gives him a squeeze. That wasn't wow. That was, I just got over it. So it wasn't all perfect. He was good at this ditch away from the stands. But down the back, the next time Paul gave him a squeeze, you could see the power. This fence, little squeeze, there's the power you're looking for.
and he had it through the air there. Was brilliant at the last ditch, and I love the way he lands. See, it was the landing side there, the distance he put between himself and Wingman. He lands galloping. Now I mentioned Kopek Des Bordes landing a bit heavy at the second last. His feet didn't come anywhere near as far off the ground when he landed. Very good at the last, and he bolted in. And I think if you zoom in on that, only I forgot to do it earlier. I don't think I've ever saw him do it before, but Paul Townend was smiling.
Was he?
Halfway up the running, which is very unlike Paul Townend.
Was he really?
Yep.
Oh, you'll have to zoom in and have a look at that. So, betting for the Brown Advisory, just to show you that Final Demand is right at the top, 6-4. I think Chris Cook wrote in the Racing Post that surely there are better 7-4 shots than Final Demand. Well, 6-4 now everywhere, Chris, and believe me, I know how that feels. Jimmy DeSoy, 14-1, and upwards the rest. So, lots of horses, obviously, that we haven't yet seen in this division, but Final Demand is really, really good. I really like that. Meanwhile, at Cheltenham, Wade Out won an eventful novice chase.
It was eventful, and maybe it was the ground, but he didn't really jump really high at the first. Careful. Same again at the second fence, climbs up in the air, and you're thinking, come on, get down out of the air and give yourself a chance. Makes a mistake here. Sean gives him a squeeze, and double powerful lands in it and gets rid of Conor O'Farrell. But he was really hard work. Thought the two in the front end jumped much better than him, as did the third horse who's getting into the mix as well. One Big Bang, but One Big Bang gets involved in the ditch down the back here, and they go by Leave of Absence, who stops quite quickly at the top of the hill, and they poured it on down the hill. One Big Bang and Isaac de Zorbo, and they went away from Wade Out, but in really testing conditions that paid, and he has come and outstayed the two of them. Now maybe on better ground he would have a bit more cut, but I just thought Wade Out was so careful that he's going to get caught out in a better race.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, my comment was he was good between the fences. Sadly, it's jump racing. I quite liked the chase debut of One Big Bang in second. He's a durable, hardy horse with a good attitude.
So would I, yeah, and they will have fun with him.
Yeah, okay. So that's our quick gallop through the novice chases. In a moment, we're going to be joined by Josh Stacey, who'll have your thoughts on this division. Here he is. Josh is with us. Welcome. Now, what's the response been?
The roadies are loving this. I asked them about the three really impressive chasing debutants, and a lot of them like all three.
I'm with them.
Yeah, I think the one overriding feeling is Final Demand was extra special, possibly. Simon Sanders, a big roadie, he says all three were very impressive. Lulamba doesn't look like a two-miler, and I think connections know that. Kopek just oozes raw talent, and Final Demand professional and efficient. And another interesting take, this is probably leaning towards Cheltenham in March. Rab Andrews mentioned something that Matt Toombs wrote in his Racing TV article this week. And he said a factor that is often missed by punters is that there's much more jumping early in the race at Cheltenham than the other four courses in Britain and Ireland that host open Grade 1 chases at around the minimum trip. Typically, the fourth fence on either course at Cheltenham is jumped after just 20% of the time taken for the entire race. At those other four courses, it's typically between 35 and 42. So saying that jumping is tested early on at Cheltenham, I wonder what you thought.
I read that. I thought it was interesting, but you've written it, so you tell us.
I think it comes in twos and twos rather than four. I know the four of them are in a line, but it do tend to come first and second, and then you got to run across the junction of both courses to get to the third and fourth, which are tight together. So it's two pairs rather than four fences. And no, I think if you miss the first two, it can put you on the back foot, but you do have a furlong to catch up before you get to the next one. Now, statistically, that's absolutely spot on, but it doesn't ride that way.
Interesting, that, isn't it? I think Matt was. I mean, I found that interesting as well. I read his column on the Racing TV website, and I think he's trying to get at why Cheltenham experience is so important over fences for novices, particularly over 2 miles, and why you got to get that element of random in the champion chase.
Yeah, I can't explain it. But I don't necessarily think it's the way the fences are laid out.
Right.
No.
Okay.
I think it's harder if you missed a second at Sandown than if you missed a second at Cheltenham.
Interesting. We did have a video question. This is from Scotty Rudds. He wanted to know your opinion on these three.
Hi Lydia, hi Ruby. To answer your question for the roadies, the horse that blew me away the most was Final Demand in his chase debut at Navan. I thought he was extremely professional for a first-timer over fences, and a horse who, if I was rolling the dice, wouldn't be out of place in a Gold Cup this year. I think 2 more performances like that could see him be a real big odds-on favourite for the Brown Advisory at the Cheltenham Festival in March. Thank you.
Bad boy of bowls, eh?
Yeah, interesting. And not the only roadie to pick up on this. Joe from the Midlands says, if he were to run, where would Final Demand finish in a Cheltenham Gold Cup?
Hopefully at the winning post. Hypothetical questions need ridiculous answers.
You know this.
You know what I mean, hypothetical questions. I mean, he's not going to run the Gold Cup. I asked the question.
I just don't know why people want to put horses' career in fast forward. I just don't get it. Well, isn't part of the enjoyment seeing a horse develop? And what happens if it doesn't work? And what happens if he's overfaced and it's really bad news? I mean, I know this is with 2 novices against each other, but Ballyburn meeting Sir Gino, I reckon that really hold Ballyburn's confidence under the waterline in terms of jumping.
Definitely put him on the back foot, and he wasn't able for it. But when you get to the bottom or expose any horse, you stop the improvement, you send them downhill. So I wouldn't be for it. But look, that's not popular opinion, but you got to keep the dream alive. Why do people want reality so soon?
I want to see the developing story. I like the narrative. I don't want to pick up a horse and pop him down in the Cheltenham Gold Cup like it's that easy.
No, I agree.
What about the 2 2-year-olds that everyone wanted to run the Nunthorpe?
Yeah.
They couldn't be found.
I agree. We got a question from Cheltenham, the place.
Right.
The place said, what does it mean when trainers and jockeys say horses get quicker over fences?
I think it means they're less slow than they get quicker, because there's so much more jumping in a chase than a hurdle race. There's between 12 and 13 in a standard 2-mile chase, up to 14 in some tracks, where there's only ever 8 in a hurdle race. So there's more jumps. I think there's less galloping, and it makes them probably less slow. More so than quicker.
Should there be more hurdles in hurdle races?
Again, I'm standing on the ground, so I'm going to say yes. But I always believed it anyway. And I think speed, more jumps you put in, the less speed there is involved.
And also it can be helpful going chasing for like a Kopek Des Bordes, although he was going, let me go faster. It can help them, Cargesi as well, potentially to go chasing, can't it, rather than stay hurdling?
Yeah,
if they're keen.
Yeah, it can. And, jumps, you even saw it with... the horse that was second in the Derby ran in the maiden hurdle at Cheltenham last week. Anti-friendly. How a jump actually made him look and slow down a little bit. Even though he was keen, it definitely put a brake on him. So jumps do help you settle horses.
Interesting. Cheltenham has another question for us. Which chasing debuts stand out from your riding career? Haydock stands out all day.
Nat Blanded.
Every day. Yeah?
Yeah, Nat Blanded.
4-man and Locksmith, novice chase in Newbury, 29th of February, or December even.
Did you know that day he was going to be the horse he was?
No, but I knew he was different.
We've got another response from Kieran, our friend Kieran from last week.
Who helped us close the show last week?
Yes.
The miserable one.
Unfortunately, he's not lightened up.
Right.
He's got a question for Ruby. This is Kieran again. He says, does he think they should change the Betfair Chase trip to 2.5 miles? Having the Betfair, the 1965 and the graduation chase all within 2 hours of each other hardly seems ideal. I
wouldn't change the distance. It didn't stop Haydock Star. It didn't stop Imperial Commander. No, I wouldn't be. The Betfair Chase is what it is. I wouldn't be for changing it personally. But look, we discussed graduation chases already. I think we know what we do with them. Yeah, we certainly wouldn't have horses having their 23rd start in them, I don't think. I think there has to be some change to that. Also, Ascot is right-handed and Haydock is left-handed and Haydock's flat. There is more nuance than just purely the distance as well. And one is a grade 2 and one is a grade 1. So personally, I probably would give the grade 1 winners a bigger penalty in the 1965, but you get a horse like Pictory, that really is his level.
Yes, it is.
Suits him, and I know he's won Grade 1s in Ascot, but you know, you have horses like that need to be catered for too.
Kieran, what I want to know is, can you keep this up for the entire season? Can you out-miserable Ruby for the entire season? You're 2 from 2 in shows so far. You're doing really well. Can you keep it up? Consistency is king, I think. That's a challenge, I think. I think he should meet it.
I'm going to be very disappointed if he doesn't. This time next week, we want to be ending our segment with Kieran.
Kieran, it's up to you. OK, Josh, thank you very much. You and I are going to talk about the 2-mile hurdlers in a few moments' time.
All right, lads, it's been a long day. Last thing, our ad slot for the Road to Cheltenham. Patrick, I want you to look into that camera there and say, hi, I'm Patrick Mullins and he's Ruby Walsh. And if you enjoy his analysis on Road to Cheltenham, you might like Paddy Power's From the Horse's Mouth podcast, updated weekly and available wherever you get your podcasts. Very straightforward.
All right, sounds easy.
Ruby, all I want you to do is to look happy and smile. So, Patrick, if you give it a go in your own time, that'd be cool.
Hi, I'm Ruby Walsh, and that's Patrick Mullins.
No, okay, you can't even get your own name. Amateur jockey, amateur broadcaster. I don't know what that is. Forget about it.
Now, 2-mile hurdlers, so therefore Constitution Hill has obviously been hitting the headlines again. A couple of reasons this week. On Sunday, Nicky Henderson was saying something quite interesting about him, and on Tuesday he was galloping at Newbury, this time emerging with his hopes intact. But let's start by hearing what Nicky Henderson said to Nick Luck when he asked him about some interesting comments he made about the horse in the Racing Post.
You said something interesting over the weekend about Constitution Hill when you said he suddenly developed quality. And I kind of raised my eyebrows. I thought, oh, that's an interesting thing to say. And I wondered what you meant by it.
I don't know. He sort of stretched himself, and you walk into the box, and he was a lovely big block of a horse, if you know what I mean. And he just sort of fined down a little bit. He doesn't look so clumsome would be the wrong word, but he's not as heavy as he used to look. Just a sleeker horse.
Does that make it easier for you in a sense?
I'm not sure.
Does it make you don't have to work so hard to get weight
he's
off?
moving very well.
So they've been talking about breaking him down and building him back up again. Is it possible that kind of reapproaching a horse's hurdling might change his shape? I don't know. I'm asking you.
I don't know either, but it sounds there that Nicky doesn't think he's as plain as he was.
Essentially, that is what he's saying.
Very polite way of putting it. But does that mean physically he's changed? Is he leaner? Does that mean he's less muscle? I don't know.
It's interesting, isn't it? Let's see what Nicky had to say after the gallop at Newbury with a couple of stable companions. The key thing I think here was about the hurdling. Clearly they've been addressing his hurdlings over the summer as well. And now Barney Clifford from Kempton, the head of racing there, has lent Nicky Henderson at Seven Barrows some of those padded hurdles which he encountered at Cheltenham and at Aintree, not at Punchestown. And that's the final bit of the puzzle, I think, from the sound of things, between now and his return in the Fighting Fifth.
It is, and it's probably still the one thing that won't be answered until he runs in the Fighting Fifth.
Agreed.
And there's no doubt that the people in Seven Barrows know what they're looking at, and if he can be showing them all the right signs, but till you turn it up to racing speed, you're not going to know if that's fixed.
Tend to agree. Right. Well, everyone at Seven Barrows has analysed this. Now it's Ruby's turn.
So I think Constitution Hill's biggest attribute throughout his career has been his jumping, but unfortunately that is the one thing that has let him down of late. And look, when you look back through him, he could do everything in his pomp. When you go back to him this is the champion hurdle, comes out of Nico's hands, but he did it with conviction. He knew what he was doing and he went at it. Here he is at Aintree. Nico gives him a squeeze, he shortens and gets himself out of it. He always knew what he was doing. This is the Christmas hurdle in 2023. Nico sits on him, he gets in deep and lands out a mile the back of it. But he didn't get indecisive until this day. Nico said go on, and that was the first time he changed his mind. And that was the start of it. This is the hurdle before he falls in Cheltenham. He pings it, and Nico does the very same thing on him at the next hurdle. He gives him a small squeeze, that's all he's ever done on him, 1, 2, and he doesn't commit to it. That was the first time he didn't commit. Then he goes to entry. People say he got blinded. This is 2 hurdles before he fell. Completely blinded. Third last hurdle, he switches off the bend. He has to change direction, and he can't see the hurdle, but he still doesn't make the mistake. But at the second last, again, he gets indecisive and doubts himself, and he lands on the hurdle. And that is the thing you're trying to worry about. First in Punchestown, you think it was on fire. The second, he was a little bit better at it. But as this race develops, and James Bowen did a good job on him because he gets him to warm up. He jumped the third hurdle better. This the fourth one at the bottom of the hill. That's looking like Constitution Hill. But when he gets down the back, fine at this one. No, that one, sorry, was the start of it. He starts to get braver. Third last hurdle, he's braver. And the second last hurdle, he's lucky he wasn't on the floor again. He has gotten indecisive, which he never was in the past. And that probably comes from the first fall. And it's like a cyclist. When they start to doubt themselves coming downhill, it's hard to get it back.
So is it coincidence or is it correlation that the padded hurdles seems to be the start of the rot? You mentioned the international.
I don't think so. You live on the edge. He lived on the edge at the last in a champion hurdle. And we have the data to show it. He was so fast. But when you are so fast, there is very little margin for error. And here it is. And this is going with his average speed lost. And in the races he ran in, he's losing under 2 miles per hour in most of those races. The Christmas hurdle in 2024, after a year off, he lost 2.34 miles per hour. But in all the races he ran in, he lost the least amount of speed until he got, even the 2 races he fell in, he was losing the least amount of speed until he went to Punchestown. And off the back of the second fall, he went over 3 miles per hour in speed lost and finished 6th. And that is the imponderable. And that is one that, I don't know, maybe they can fix it, but that is the biggest question for Constitution Hill.
I totally agree. I mean, that really does illustrate confidence blown, doesn't it?
And it goes back to being a cyclist, and there is no shame in it. And it just is. But he lived on the edge, and it was such an attribute to him.
Really revealing that. Thanks to Josh Kerr for doing that analysis for us. Now, as Ruby says, we're not going to find out about Constitution Hill until he runs in the Fighting Fifth. More on the Fighting Fifth in a moment. But we were talking last week about whether there was potential for Sir Gino to end up in the Champion Hurdle. That you would think is partly contingent, perhaps, on Constitution Hill, also partly contingent on when he makes his return. But there was an interesting thing that Nicky Henderson said in passing about Sir Gino. Here's the clip. This is the same day talking to Nick Luck at Exeter on Monday. He starts off by comparing Lulamba and Sir Gino in that he's chosen to go chasing with each of them as 4-year-olds.
We did it for Joe and Marie with Sir Gino last year, and unfortunately his that campaign got cut off before we really found out. He just won the one at Kempton. I mean, he could still go either way, to be honest with you, but I think we're not going to go back now. We didn't go to France, and we said we'd come here, and let's hope all's good and we can march on to Sandown and on from there.
He could still go either way, to be honest with you. I think that could have been easily missed. He's referring to Sir Gino, and he means hurdles or chases, doesn't he?
Well, I would have thought so, but I'd say it probably hinges a little bit on Amsterdam as well.
Of course, because he's also owned by the Donnellys.
Salvatore Mundi gets on and whatever else, but I'd say there's plenty moving parts, and it's all the knock-on effect of poor old Statement.
Absolutely it is. Let's have a look at the Champion Hurdle betting and see how it's seen. The new lion who runs in the Fighting Fifth is 7-2. Lossiemouth, who runs on Saturday in the Morgiana, surprise, 7-2. Amsterdam, who doesn't, surprise, is 6-1, and then it's 9-1 and upwards the rest. Right, so this is Willie Mullins pulling one out of the hat, as ever, leaving a decision late. Let's have a look at the Morgiana decks and betting. There's just 4 of them in it. Lossiemouth and Iranzi representing Willie Mullins. Nadawi is there, and Glenn Kiln adding up to 4. Everybody, I think, was expecting, almost everybody was expecting, Lossiemouth to go to the Hatton's Grace and Amsterdam to turn up here. What's that about?
I'd say even Willie was reading them in the paper on Monday, I think it was, but I'd say he probably hadn't sat down and thought about it till this morning. He'd talked to David and Paul, and I'd say Paul was keen for Lossiemouth to go to Punchestown, and that's why she's there.
Okay. Let's have a look. I mean, is this a power play, if we think about it? Does Willie Mullins and Paul Townend think they can win this race, the Morgiana with Lossiemouth, they can win the Fighting Fifth with Amsterdam, and they can win the Hatton's Grace with Ballyburn?
I'd imagine, well, Ballyburn will be going a different direction ultimately, because you'd imagine he would be going for a stairs hurdle, but I'm thinking that they're going to Newcastle to find out, is Amsterdam a champion hurdlers?
But on seasonal debut, that's the thing. I mean, I'd agree with you if it was Christmas Hurdle or something like that, but it's seasonal debut in the Fighting Fifth against Constitution Hill, no less, and also the New Lion. I know there are questions about the two of those, but there are more questions about Amsterdam.
There are, but he ended last season on a high, albeit he only got 2 runs. So the New Lion has to come down and ship and come out of novice company, and Constitution Hill has to come back. I mean, I don't know, I'd say it's probably the day to have a go.
Okay. Oh, I'm sure he is. I'm sure he is. I'm with Paul Keeley in this. Paul Keeley has written, if Amsterdam is going to Newcastle, he isn't the stable number 1.
But he could be Saturday week.
He could prove himself, yeah. It's an opportunity to prove himself, absolutely. Previous horses that have run for Willie Mullins in the Fighting Fifth, Arctic Fire, Wicklow Brave, Mystical Power.
2 of them were supplemented when we thought others weren't going to run. Mystical Power ran bad, and I think I rode Native Darrig in it when it was a handicap.
Willie Mullins is a creature of habit. His best horse, best 2-mile hurdler, runs in the Morgiana, doesn't it?
I don't know if she's the best 2-mile, but she's the most proven hurdler we have.
Okay. Let's talk Lossiemouth, shall we? Your recap of her season.
Well, she started in the Hatton's Grace last year, 2.5 in Ferryhouse. She beat Chupu. She headed off to Kempton then for her Christmas dinner and was no match for Constitution Hill. Beat Burdett Road, okay, but couldn't lay a glove on him. Then went back to Leopardstown. Who knows, looked to be going just fine inside Stateman, but Paul was happy too when she fell halfway down the back. She then went to the Cheltenham Festival, stepped back up to 2 miles, or 2.5, sorry, where she beat Jade de Grugy, and then went to Aintree, where she had to pull out her fair share of stops to beat Woodoo. 3 runs at 2.5, 3 wins, 2 runs at 2 miles, no win.
Which is something that she may or may not put right in the Morgiana.
She may or may not, but they are the facts.
They are. I got the vibe, but by the time we got to Cheltenham last season, that essentially the team at Clersutton don't think that Lossiemouth is a champion hurdler. That Stateman was, and Lossiemouth wasn't.
Well, Paul never thought she was as good as him, but what's required to win a champion hurdle now is a different story. But still, when we look at it again next week in a different angle with the case Lydia's going to make, who knows what's going to be required to win this year's champion hurdle.
I suppose that is the point. It's a moving target, isn't it?
Big time.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about Aranci, the stable companion. He ran in the Supreme and then went on for better days at the end of the season.
There was a train of thought maybe he didn't come down the hill in Cheltenham last year, not so sure. I think he was quite keen early doors. He was inside Salverton Monday, lost his place a little bit up to the top of the hill and came off the bridle before he ever began to descend. He hadn't run since November. I wonder, did the pace of the race and that climb to the top of the hill at the back straight just take the wind out of his sails? Because when he came back to Ferryhouse, he was a better horse, and he was better again at Punchestown. Salvatore Monday and Kopek Des Bordes went quite fast, to put it mildly. Aranci sat well off them. Look where Mark Walsh and Danny are compared to Patrick and Paul Townend at the third last hurdle. And by the time we get to the second last then, the 2 in front have shot their bolt. Kopek Des Bordes goes mad left. Aranci pings in between them and he scoots away to win. So look, he's on an upward trajectory. He's shown he likes Punchestown, but I guess he has to go upwards a good bit to get to Lossiemouth's level.
Very much so. Very much so. But you've raised the point about 2 miles.
Yeah, and maybe he will. So they might find out at Punchestown whether Aranci's a champion hurdle horse or not.
Of course, there is the unspeakable or unthinkable possibility that Clersutton might not have a champion hurdler now that Stateman is unfortunately injured.
That's happened in the past, Lydia.
Yeah.
I do believe I rode footpad in the champion hurdle one year.
How did that work out for you?
She was fourth, actually.
Yeah, okay.
Thought I did well to finish
Not
fourth.
bad at all. Not bad at all. Right. Okay. You were just talking about the standard of the champion hurdle and hinting that I was going to mention something.
Something next week. No, we'll keep it for next week.
Well, but also it's relevant to now as well.
What?
Alexei winning the Great Wood Hurdle off a mark of 1:34 by 6 lengths. Can he end up in the champion hurdle?
He's a long way to go. More likely to end up at Ascot, I would have thought, in a handicap. But what I like about Alexei is how he is maturing with racing. He's settled much better at Cheltenham for Brendan Powell than he had done at Ascot on his previous start. He ended up on the wrong side of the track down the hill purely because of the way the race developed. But Brendan wasn't long about getting himself back onto the right side of the track. And even here away from the second last, he follows Tom Bellamy instead of going inside Harry Skelton. That's how well he was going. And this horse quickened up really well then off the home turn to go and challenge the horse in front. Love the way he jumps. You'd love the way he's improving mentally as well as physically. And he's learning how to race more efficiently and correctly. It was an impressive performance. What did he get? I did ask you this the other day. Whatever he got, 12 pounds or 13 pounds. And he needs that again to be a champion hurdler.
Of course he does. But Burdett Road went off 1:33 last year, ended up finishing second in an eventful champion hurdle. Iberico Lord went it off 1:26, and he was supplemented in the champion hurdle that year that the Nicky Henderson stable were just sick and not able to perform.
Yeah, they did, but again, it goes back to it's a long time since a Great Wood winner won a champion hurdle, isn't it?
It is, but such is the... I don't know. I think there's elements of this division that could just implode, and if Alexei does carry on that improvement, he wouldn't. Both of these things would need to happen for that horse to end up in the champion hurdle.
A lot of ifs.
I wouldn't be surprised if he gets an entry.
Really would I, but it's a long way from him having to make an entry. You'd imagine he will have had to have won at Ascot between now and then.
Okay. There was a horse that we didn't end up focusing on, which I really liked. I want to get him in before the end of the show. I really like Meet Me by the Seas, novice chase debut at Wetherby. You don't think it's good enough, but I just really like the horse.
He jumped well, travelled well. I think he has a fair bit of improving to do to get up to the standard.
Yes.
But could he be a horse for a novice handicap? Yeah.
I think he could. I think he's very progressive. I love the way he jumps. Anyway, thank you very much for your company. Thank you for your thoughts. Thank you to Josh Stacey as well. Thank you for your thoughts. Keep them up, particularly you, Kieran. We'll see you next week.
Paddy Power, sponsors of the Road to Cheltenham.